Ed and Lorraine Warren's grandson emotionally calls out Matt Rife and Elton Castee. But before we get into today's topic, hi, I'm Stephanie, and I talk about the paranormal and strange. So I found this post on TikTok, but it was also posted on other platforms. So Chris McKinnell, who is Ed and Lorraine Warren's grandson, so he posted this picture on TikTok, and then he says, a family legacy. He said, I have kept quiet as long as I could, maybe longer than I should have. Over the years, I've become increasingly estranged from my family due to deep differences in how we view and how we preserve the legacy of my grandparents, Ed and Lorraine Warren. At the heart of the distance is a sincere disagreement over how sacred this work truly is and how it should be handled with reverence and not publicity. Can I just say something real quick? I feel like this is interesting to see as somebody who has made paranormal content. I've always said, and I'll give you some insight here. Here's the cheesemate, here's the tea. I feel like the paranormal space, it is such a hard community to feel like you belong in, to feel collective. Sure, there are some positive things, but honestly, it's one of the biggest reasons why I've stopped really making as much paranormal content. Like, yeah, I do ghost stories. Yeah, I do horror content. But am I like eager to collaborate with other paranormal groups? No, because it's very messy. And it's so unfortunate seeing that Ed and Lorraine Warren's grandson is having differences with the Warrens' daughter, Judy, and the son-in-law, Tony Spera. Anyway, so then he adds on, most recently, I voiced my concern about Annabelle being taken on tour, and now I'm watching the only real home I've ever known. The one place in the world that felt unquestionably like home be turned into a tourist attraction. And you know what's interesting is that a couple months ago, he did point out that people were leaving Raggedy Ann dolls on, I believe, Ed's final resting place, or both Ed and Lorraine's resting place, and how he felt like that was very disrespectful considering that Lorraine and Ed were very serious about the Annabelle doll in his perspective, and to see that is such a slap on the face. Anyway, so then he adds on, he says, for me, this is deeply personal. My grandparents weren't just paranormal investigators, they were my anchors. I remember riding my bike to their house as a kid. I remember my grandmother making me toasted tomato and cheese on rye. That sounds really good. I remember holidays spent there, the quiet wisdom they shared, and the unshakable sense of duty they felt to protect people from what they couldn't always see or understand. I've lived in over 100 places around the world, but that house, that museum, was the one constant in my life. I wasn't consulted. I wasn't involved. And for years now, I've often been misunderstood, called things like narcissistic or attention seeking, but that's never been who I am. And I want to add something, you guys. So I really didn't understand how he is the grandson to Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I genuinely was just asking because I'm like, they only have one daughter. The kids are anonymous. It's never stated that he is their kids, but yet he shows up in the Lorraine obituary. So I was like, okay, so there's still truth to this. So I don't know why he's been called these things, but just something I wanted to add on. And then this is like the final note of what he says. I don't want to be famous. I want to help people. I want to honor the responsibility my grandparents entrusted to all of us to protect the living, respect the dead, and never turn the sacred work into a spectacle. I don't know what comes next, but I know I couldn't stay silent. This legacy matters. It's not a brand. It's not content. It's not entertainment. It's sacred. To those who reached out, tagged me, or simply taken a moment to listen, thank you, I see you, and I'll keep standing for what I believe in, even if I have to do it alone. Oof. I mean, my heart goes out to him. I mean, in general, I said this in my last video, I feel like it's unfortunate that the legacy is being sold off to other people who are not family. I think that all the work that the Warrens have put in, it just means more when family's still involved. However, now comes into this other part.
Filming. Wow, already. Fuck. Yeah, this is that's crazy. I didn't think it was gonna hit that. Oh, this is gonna.
The live stream of Elton Castee, who wasn't mentioned on this, by the way, but he did make a live stream 3 days ago from when I'm recording this, and 2 days ago, this was posted from what I saw. So that's important to note. Elton Castee, he is a YouTuber. He also purchased the house with Matt Rife. I know Matt Rife is getting a lot of attention. I did watch the first hour of the live stream, and I think the live stream really addresses the concerns of Ed and Lorraine Warren's grandson, Chris McKinnell. So I'm going to be highlighting a couple of things from the live stream that was recorded within the first hour. And so that is good enough to cover for this segment because he talks about a couple of things that I'll be walking you guys through, which is the emotional tie to the house, the misconceptions, like what was really purchased versus what's currently staying with Tony and Judy, and then also talking about how the future plans and all the work that they did to make sure that they were in agreement with the city or the town. Then they talk about, there's a couple of guests, which is Tony Spera. I know someone on my last video talked about, I wonder what Tony has to say after all of this. And then there's also skepticism of like, Tony would never give up these things so easily. So he was in the live stream. He makes it at the 1 hour mark. And then there's also a caretaker who talks about these sentiments with Dan Rivera. And in my last video, I also talked about how from an outsider, it does feel and it does seem like the purchase came right at a very convenient time from the death of one of the members of NESPR, and who was like the driving force of the Annabelle tour and all this stuff. So I'm going to be covering that because that was covered in the first hour. So let's watch a clip.
Wholeheartedly, 1,000,000% believe this is the most haunted house in the world. That's what I believe. And I think anyone that disagrees with me, you're going to be corrected.
So he cries, he makes a statement, a very bold statement, one that definitely gives your money for a run, right? Because now you want to visit the most haunted place in America or in the world.
I want this to be the ultimate paranormal investigation experience location on the planet.
Anybody who books a place to stay here, because as of right now, they're going to be running this place like an Airbnb with a maximum of 8 people who are able to stay.
You can investigate this house every night.
Up to 8.
8 people.
8 is the max. I mean, if you want to rent it out by yourself, sure, but 8 is the maximum occupancy that we can have here.
Okay.
Now, he did talk about the purchase and how that went down. He states that
Matt and I have purchased Ed and Lorraine's house, which is what this property is. It includes the museum, because the museum is a building that is attached to the house. As far as the items go, Tony and Judy still own all of the artifacts.
So for those of you that were skeptical or like, what the heck, they just gave everything away to strangers, fret not, because it's still part of the family. So in a way, it is kind of addressing the Warren Legacy Foundation's concerns a little bit, not entirely, but there's still something there to be said, right?
We've already done this, be able to invest in making really custom, really big, really cool, unique, one of a kind in the world's paranormal investigation tools.
That's going to be very interesting. The reason why I say this is because I can see people who are booking the night there who are skeptics or atheists, who are non-believer people, say, oh my God, customizable equipment. How convenient for one of the most haunted places in the world. That's just what came to my mind. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I can just see the rebuttal for that already, but I digress.
And for those of you that do end up staying here for an overnight investigation, you will be allowed as well to investigate in the museum, but under guidance. I cannot, again, this is the guy that screws around a lot on videos. This is the one place I don't. This is the one place that I don't.
There were a lot of headliners, you guys, during this time where people are like, oh my God, a comedian bought a haunted location, a place with history, a place of legacy, a place that has sparked curiosity in a franchise. But Elton, I think he was trying to set that foundation in that statement of like, hey, take this, I'm taking this seriously despite what other people are saying. Like, this is something that we deeply care about. Now, for the first half of the video, he talked about how this was all very interesting because there was just so many synchronicities. And if you don't know what synchronicities are, it's just basically like a series of events which appear significant related to like the moment that all this coming to this moment. Like there were so many different little clues and hints for this actual moment that is happening in this time, right? Like
we're all thrilled that you guys have the house and you're going to continue, you know, in Ed and Lorraine's testing. I wish Dad could be here. This is what he wanted, you know? But
I got emotional with the caretaker who is part of the paranormal investigation group, who has been there for years and is really familiar with everything, and how Dan really wanted this. Dan advocated for this. And it's unfortunate that he is not here currently to see this all finally be announced. But there was plans for so many months.
This wasn't like Dan passed away and that, please, that is not, this was all in the works before any of that.
Which leads to the next thing, that the plan for the museum, because if you watched the last video, or if you already just know, when Lorraine passed away, the museum was closed for good due to zoning issues. There were people that were trespassing, knocking on doors, just being very disruptive to the residents in that neighborhood. So it just made sense to close everything down. However, what that meant was that people, the public, could not get access or learn about the legacy and actually see the things that they've maybe watched.
Really clear. I talked to literally the mayor and the city and everyone here. I know all the rules. Those are the rules. Please just don't show up and think you can walk on the property. That can't happen.
Then the future plan is that the house will remain like an Airbnb, but they're actually currently looking at public places in which they can open it up to the public where you can see the artifacts. Elton also goes on to say that
and everything else of that nature. So what we've been working on is trying to find a permanent home for the Warrens Occult Museum that's currently here, that can be open to the public, that can be open for day tours. I'll just say it, very similar to what Bagans has.
He hopes to make it kind of like Zach Bagans museum, like the one in Nevada. And he owns to collect other things as well. Now, I kind of feel like people are already going to feel very protective or touchy about this because, wow, the artifacts are now going to live with other things. And what does that mean? I don't know. You can tell me if you want down below. But then comes in Tony Spera. Now, somebody in my last video talked about how I wonder what he will say. I wonder if he's really on board with this. And it does seem like he is, actually.
Watching you right
folks,
now.
I hope y'all come and see Elton's new investigative house, the haunted house, probably the most haunted house in the world now,
I
right?
think so.
And the museum, of course, which is he's going to be showing the artifacts for everyone to see. And it's going to be great because nobody's ever investigated this house before.
So this is going to be a very special opportunity, a place for people to learn and explore. But like the Warren Foundation pointed out, are people really, do they know what they're getting themselves into? Well, they do talk about protection and blessing and all of that. And I think that's very important to discuss because if you don't know, my husband and I are both psychic mediums. We do psychic development circles here in the Los Angeles County area. And essentially every time we do one of these sessions with a group of people in a circle, we do cleanse the space before people enter it. We also do a closing ritual. So I see the importance of that. And I think that it's great that he brought this up, that like you can bless a place, you can protect a place, but it does wear off. You need to constantly do that spiritual hygiene. And for you too, do that spiritual hygiene, whether it's just setting the intention, releasing that energy. That could be for a different video, but you get my drift here.
Right.
So your protection is the prayers, blessings, the holy water, bless yourself, doing all those kinds of things.
So that is really the first hour of this live stream. If you want me to cover the footage and stuff like that they did in the basement or the investigation, let me know. I mean, I am a psychic. I do look at paranormal footage. I do have thoughts. But yeah, let me know. All right. And remember, stay strange.